Hi there, it's Kevin with GatheringMagic.com with match number 1 with our Shuyun Tiny Leaders deck. This one's against a Jaya Ballard Taskmage burn deck. This is match number 1 in our little 4-man tournament that we held for this Playing on a Budget series. So all of us are kind of new to this format. None of us really know the metagame very well. So this will just be, again, bear with me with the video quality as I am doing this live, and none of us are really great with the video technology and whatnot. But we'll try to post some pictures on the right-hand corner of cards that I'm talking about, and I'm going to commentate on this game that's already been played. And my opening hand, let's see if we can see it here, is going to be pretty decent on this deck. Again, we didn't have the camera set quite nicely for the hand. I try to show my hand here, but I'll try to remember exactly how the game played. So we see like a Wee Dragonauts there. I think there's a Monastery Swiftspear. There is, it looks like 1 land, 2 lands, and a Ponder, and then a Faithless Looting. So it's a very good hand for the Shuyun. I do have experience running decks similar to this, like the Nivix Cyclops, or the Nivix Cyclops deck in Pauper. I think they call it Delver Fiend is what the term a lot of people in Pauper like to use. So I know that you do want to see like a Ponder in your opening hand and just a few creatures. You want a nice little mix of creatures and spells to pump them up. Now the one thing that I didn't notice right off the bat is the 20 to 25 difference in Pauper versus Tiny Leaders actually makes a huge difference as far as swinging in for lethal on 1 turn. But our opponent does ship it back, and he's going to go down to 6. And Tiny Leaders that you do mulligan the same way you do in any one-on-one format, and he decides to keep his hand. So I know that he's going to be some sort of burn. I did see a little bit of his deck before he played it, but we wanted to keep this as fresh as possible without any information. So I'm going to draw into a Nivix, or an Elemental, the 1-drop, 1/2 Elemental. And Nivmagus Elemental, that's a card, and that's actually a pretty strong card versus burn, because if you exile a few spells, you can actually get it out of burn range. So I'm just going to go ahead and crack the Flooded Strand, go down to a 23, and throw in a Steam Vents. And I think that the play will be the Monastery Swiftspear. And actually, in hindsight, maybe against burn, maybe I just want to throw out that Nivmagus Elemental, because if he does have a lightning bolt or something, I could use like a gut shot if I had a gut shot, and then actually exile to make it up to a 3/4. But I decided just to try to bait out the Swiftspear. I'm thinking that the Nivmagus Elemental is a little more powerful, so only gets in there for 1. He's down to 24, and it's an Isochron Scepter, one of the more powerful 2-drops in the Tiny Leaders format. And again, our decks aren't tuned that great, so he's just going to chuck a Lightning Strike, if I remember correctly, underneath the Isochron Scepter. So I draw into a Titan Strength, which is a great card, but I need to try to protect my Swiftspear, so I think I'm just going to Ponder here. I know I'm going to get in for some damage. Maybe I should have just gone all out here and done as much damage as possible with the Swiftspear. I'm going to Ponder, and I don't like any of those. There's a Battle Rage, and it looks like a Guttersnipe, and then it looks like another... Is that a Preordain there? I can't tell quite what that card was, but what I wanted to see is like another land, and so we can cast some more spells. So I decided to ship it back and shuffle, and then just go with the luck to see if I can get a land, because I want to secure all of my land drops, because the more lands the merrier in this deck, because Shuyun does require a bit of mana, and I do draw into a mountain there, so it ended up being a pretty good Ponder. And then we can swing in for a minimum of 2, and I decided to keep that Titan Strength in my hand, just in case he wants to try to use it on his turn, that we can get it, since the Prowess will come up to a 2/3, and the Titan Strength will actually make it up to a 4 toughness. The Lightning Strike will not be able to kill it. And this is the name of the game with this match, is I'm trying to keep the Monastery Swiftspear alive and just ping him down a few per turn. So the Isochron Scepter is he gets stuck on 2 lands. He wants to keep it open to get value out of the Isochron Scepter, and I decide just to cast looks like a Distortion Strike on the Monastery Swiftspear, which has rebound. So now Mike is up to a 2/3, and I'm just using a dice to kind of signify the storm count, as you would say, how many spells I've cast. We can figure out the prowess on the Swiftspear. And then I decide right here to go with another card, probably just a Faithless Looting. Yeah, it's going to be a Faithless Looting. And this is going to bait the Scepter. He's going to have to use it right now before... So the trigger's on the stack for the Prowess. and he's going to target, and then that forces me to strength. So I actually get to scry here to see if I want the card on top. And I can't see quite what that was, but I do want to draw that. So we're going to end up drawing with the Faithless Looting. And it's going to be a Merchant Scroll, and it looks like a Gut Shot. So both of those are very powerful. I could actually do some more damage here, and I'm going to throw away the Nivmagus Elemental. And I think I end up taking that back, because I think I want the Nivmagus Elemental and check the Wee Dragonauts instead. And I believe it was another land that hit the bin. I apologize again for not being able to see the graveyard, but we'll get better at this. The camera works as time goes on. So yeah, I decided to throw the Wee Dragonauts instead of the Nivmagus Elemental. I'm thinking that Wee Dragonauts just dies to a Lightning Strike, and I'm going to have a threat stick out against a Lightning Strike, and Shuyun is pretty poor against Lightning Strike, as it's just 2 toughness, so it costs 2 spells. So we're going to attack in here for, I believe, 9. So the 3 triggers off the Prowess and the Titan Strength and the Natural 1 gets him up to 9. And so our opponent goes down to a 14. And he does, I believe, he does hit his land drop here. So he's got some options with the Task Mage. He could play the Task Mage here. Looks like he's got, I can't quite see what's in his hand. But again, once you get an Isochron Scepter out, it's usually more tempting to leave mana open and just get value out of the Isochron Scepter. Very, very powerful card in like a burn type strategy, is you just get to cast the... I'm wondering if burn strategies, if in Modern, if they're going to go into like an Isochron Scepter route, just because like Siege Rhinos and whatnot. I know it is abrupt decay food though, so probably not. But so he is going to kill off the Swiftspear wall. He's got a chance, and I can't quite gut shot to get it high enough. And now I draw into a Guttersnipe. And not really liking the Guttersnipe here in this deck. It tends to die very quickly without getting a lot of damage through. But the Nivmagus Elemental is actually surprising in this format. So Nivmagus Elemental is going to come out, and if he wants to try to kill it, we can always just exile a Gut Shot. And it looks like, again, he misses his land drop for this turn. It does look like he has a mainboarded Blood Moon, which is pretty much a dead card versus us. But in a lot of against a lot of decks now, I'm looking at other people's deck techs. It seems there's a lot of decks that really feed off of our Blood Moon. Really can just shut down. So I'm gonna cast the Gut Shot and exile it with Nivmagus Elemental to bring it up to a 3/4. Making it survive that. So cool thing about the Nivmagus Elemental is that it gets 2 1/1 counters, and the Gut Shot, I still have to pay the mana cost, so I still have to take the 2 damage, but I get up to 3/4 out of that range. And he's at a 14. It's going to be pretty easy to just keep pinging him down, especially if I draw into some more control-type spells. So I'm going to go ahead and draw, and it looks like we get a Command Tower, which I forgot to put in my deck tech. So I did last minute throw in a Command Tower, because I remember that is legal in this format. And we're going to go ahead and attack in for 3, getting him down to an 11. And now it's going to be really tempting for him to try to get the Task Mage out, because the Task Mage does, its first ability is to destroy target blue permanent, which is, he's not using it in his deck as his commander. He's using it for the 3 damage, discard a card, 3 damage, target creature, player. But in this case, the Task Mage does very well against both Shuyun and against the Nivmagus Elemental. So now I'm going to try to, like, again, really bait him into just killing Shuyun with the Lightning Strike. And then again, my whole goal right here is to Nivmagus Elemental, ping him down, and maybe start exiling spells to get Nivmagus Elemental up high enough. So I know he can use 2 of his mana for an activation for the Lightning Strike, and possibly I don't think at this point he can do 4 damage though to the Elemental. So he's gonna Punishing Fire kill off Shuyun. I guess he's thinking that's a greater threat. And then I don't know. He probably did worry about me having an instant spell that I could eat to get up to a 6, and then that would be able to survive the Punishing Fire and the Lightning Strike. So Punishing Fire is very good in this format. There's a lot of decks that do gain life, and Punishing Fire is just a renewable resource in the format. So I attack in for 3 again, and now I believe he's down to an 8. So, and then we're going to throw out the Nivix Cyclops, which is also very good against a Lightning Strike. As end of turn now, he's able to Lightning Strike me, get value out of it, so I go down to an 18. But he's sitting at an 8, and he really has a lot of kind of poor options that looks like a Prophetic Flame Speaker is what he drew into there. And again, Lightning Strike does not take care of it. It takes 2 spells to kill a Cyclops or an Elemental. So again, Blood Moon would leave me with just 1 blue source, which wouldn't hurt me too bad. I use a lot of basic lands in this deck, and especially like Blood Moon only shuts off half my lands colors, and still leaves me with a very relevant red. A lot of the spells, like I know I can flash back a Faithless Looting out of my graveyard, which could go set up for more islands, and Blood Moon is just not very relevant here. It looks like he has a Stagger Shock as one of the other cards, so he decides to cast the Task Mage, the Jaya Ballard, which is going to be very weak for, again, I think what I do here is Merchant Scroll into Snap, and it's just going to be lethal here. So I'm trying to decide if that's the right line of play. I could go Guttersnipe, and it looks like, I'm trying to see if that's like a Preordain. I know we've already burned the Ponder. I'm trying to think what that last card that I can't quite see in my hand is. But it's going to be a 1 mana. That is going to be a Preordain. So we got the one storm count, basically, that's going to give our Nivix Cyclops +3/+0. So 4, 5, 6 is what we could swing in. But he's got the blocker with the Task Mage. But we'll be able to scry 2 and then decide if we want them on top or bottom, which I don't think should matter here, as it just matter for the card I draw, because I do think that I'm going to tutor. I could tutor for a lot of stuff here. I could actually just tutor for a Distortion Strike. I'm worried about that 1 mana for some reason, which I don't think I need to be. A Flame Slash it could be, but in a burn deck like his, I don't think you need the Flame Slash. It is a mana, so I'll be able to drop down an island, which actually allows me now to catch the Merchant Scroll and do the safer of the plays, which is to just go grab a Snap and return the Task Mage back to his hand, and then swing in for way more than lethal. So cool thing about Merchant Scroll, it can go get an instant, a blue instant, but in my deck that is, excuse me, that is a lot of options. That's Distortion Strike, that's Artful Dodge, that is the Shadow, the one that gives him +1/+0 in Shadow, or just Shadow draw a card. There's just a lot of cards that I can go grab. So I confirming that it's good. I move the storm count up to 2. We go and search our library for the Snap, which is usually the card that I do go grab. Which Hidden Strings I can't grab. I was looking at it, but it is only instant or sorcery. And see, Artful Dodge or Shadow Rift will work. I don't really want to show him that tech, even though you'd assume in Nivix Cyclops decks that you need some way to make it unblockable. But it is just going to be the Snap and cast Snap. So reveal the Snap and cast the Snap, and then throw the Task Mage back on top, or back into his hand. And it actually, what's cool about Snap is then I untap even more lands, and then I could cast the Guttersnipe in case he somehow gets out of this, and then it would put him on a hard clock for the next turn. But again, it's going to be up to 3. I'm going to be able to swing in, and he's asking exactly what Nivix Cyclops does. It gets +9/+0 right now, so it's a 10/4, so that's lethal by itself, and then the 3 from the Nivmagus Elemental, and that is game. So we go on to the sideboard here, so we'll just speed this up until the sideboard. So I decide here, I look at my sideboard, and I decide that I don't need a lot of, I'm trying to think if I need Double Strike in here, like Assault Strobe could come out, which it does, and I think I take out the Delver, because Delver's just food to all the shocks and things like that. I want more resilient creatures, and I think I do bring in just like counter spells and whatnot. Mana Leaks and counter spells. Counterspell Mana Leak, Is It Charm, Apostle's Blessing is what comes in. And I don't bring in the burn, so I'm just deciding what to take out here. And we'll skip ahead until the gameplay. Alright, so I look at my opening hand. I've got a couple of lands here. I've got an Is It Gilgate. I know that wasn't my original deck tech. I was scrambling to find actual cards in real life. For the difference between paper magic and MTGO is I don't have access to a million bots to find exactly what I need. So I start out with a Gilgate, not too bad. I didn't really have a 1-drop, and I still don't have another 1-drop. It looks like the only creature that I'm banking on here is just the Shuyun in my command zone. That's one of the strengths of this deck, is that it can get, you can keep a handful of spells and still rely on your, the one card out of Shuyun to cast and just go for that one turn swing if you have a ton of spells in your hand. So anywho, that the taskmate, the Jaya Ballard is going to be very, very rough for me to deal with. Again, Shuyun is blue, and it's just, yeah, I'm going to have to start doing, I didn't bring in any burn, so I only have one of lightning bolt that can actually deal with the taskmate. So he's deciding if he wants to swing or not, which he decides he is going to swing. He throws out a Grimlavamancer, which is so-so against my deck. It's going to give him some reliable damage, and it can kill like Wee Dragonauts, but actually it can't kill Wee Dragonauts, but it can kill the Kiln Fiend, which is very good. And here I'm going to throw out a Nivix Cyclops. I guess that was in my opening hand. I want to, what's really cool is I have not Cerulean Wisp, so I have the Crimson Wisp in my hand, which is cool. It turns the creature red, not red-blue. It turns it directly into red. So I have two ways in my hand, I believe, to protect it. One is through Apostle's Blessing, and the other one's through the Crimson Wisps. And it looks like in his hand he's got an Icecrown Scepter. I don't think he has anything that he can really attach to it, but it looked like a Pyrostatic Pillar is in his hand as well, which is very, very rough for me to deal with. That's the Eidolon of Blossoms or Eidolon of Great Revel in enchantment form. And my deck wants to cast a lot of cantrip spells to go through our deck, so it's very problematic. I mean, his deck is set up pretty nicely to actually beat this deck. So there's there's the Pillar, which is going to do 2 damage each time a person casts a spell converted mana cost 3 or less. So he's going to keep up mana for both the Grimlavamancer and the Task Mage. He doesn't have anything in his graveyard for the Grimlavamancer at the moment, but I am going to bolt off the let's see which one I pick here. I'm going to bolt off the Task Mage and force him to actually use it. Now, it is Commander, so it costs 2 Commander rules, so it's going to cost 2 more to cast him. So I'm not liking this because then he can just cast it the next turn. And I'm getting a little bit too many lands, but I guess the more lands the merrier at this point. I'm in Hidden Strings, and that might not be the right line of play. Maybe I should have tapped the Jaya Ballard and forced him, and this makes me take 2 life, which puts me down to 21. And Hidden Strings, when I have to cast again, if I do cast again, will take me down to another hit. So maybe this isn't the smartest move to try to go crazy here, but we will Lightning Bolt the Task Mage, and then he's gonna have to respond to that by tapping his Task Mage to try to destroy target blue permanent, and I think that's where we're going to try to get the most value out of it to then actually I'm going to go Merchant Scroll. Yeah, I definitely think that's a better line of play. So Merchant Scroll, I go down to 20 or down to a 19, and I'll go search for a Snap, and that way I can keep my Lightning Bolt and actually use the Grimlavamancer. So I'm going to go and search and grab the Snap. Snap at this point is most powerful because it's a free spell. It does what I need it to do. It's going to bounce back the Task Mage. I was thinking about like Shadow Rift or Distortion Strike or even Artful Dodge, and maybe those would be better, but it just seemed to me at this point that Snap would be the most efficient card, especially if I had more ways to use my mana. I think if I look at my hand, though, I don't, and that might be the wrong play. But our Storm count is up to a 2. Now our Snap is going to put it up to a 3. And then he's going to have to respond to that. And I'm going to take another 2 here. I think hopefully I hit all the triggers right here. I'm such an MTGO player that I'm the worst at keeping track of triggers. In fact, before major tournaments, I really have to get in my head to, not miss my triggers. So in response to him trying to target the Task Mage, I'm going to turn it red, and now it is no longer a blue permanent, so it no longer gets destroyed, and it goes back to the hand with Snap, and I'm able to then untap the lands from Snap resolving, and then I will be able to yeah, take some more damage and get the storm count up again. If I had a double strike here, then we could be pretty close to, like an Assault Strobe and a Lightning Bolt, we could be pretty close to lethal. In fact, it would be lethal. So it was pretty, like, it was a pretty decent little interaction here, but it's going to get me... I'm thinking, do I want Apostle's Blessing and give him Pro Red and then just swing in with so he can't just chump block with the Lavamancer? But I think I decided that just bolting it off is a better play. And then we're going to up the storm count again. So my Cyclops getting plus 15. And be able to swing it for 16, which is going to do a lot of damage. But again, that 25 is all the difference. So I'm deciding if I want to put this clout on the Cyclops. And I probably should have there. But I also wanted to keep up the mana for Apostle's Blessing, just in case he has something up his sleeve like a Combust. But Combust, yeah, Combust it would work because he wouldn't be able to target in response. But yeah, I'm going to go for the clout, and that's going to give him +2/+2. And then Shroud from then on out. Which does not... Oh, no, I'm going to take it back, I guess. So I apologize for the commentary. I'm all over the place with this. But I'm swinging it. It's going to do 16 damage. So from 25 all the way down to a 9. And now he's in danger with his own pillar. But I'm down to a 13 just from my own spells. And then he can cast a few cards here. And he's going to go for a Mind Sparker. And Mind Sparker is just awful because now I'm going to be taking 4 damage per blue spell that I cast. And then the Nail in the Coffin, I believe here, is in his hand. He's going to... It is not quite yet. Maybe it's the next turn that he gets it. But now that's something I have to deal with. And it's just at 13, taking 4 damage per blue spell. I draw into a dead of a card with the island. And now I can go Apostle's Blessing. But if Apostle's Blessing will give it protection from red, and then I can't put the clout on it. Or I can just go... but I need to be able to attack. And it's just one of those things that I decide... Hey, I'm not going to do anything and just hope for a top deck. But he top decks in the best card in the world against me, which is a Basilisk Collar. So he takes the 2 from the Basilisk Collar, going down to a 5. But now he equips it to the Mind Sparker. And now it's got Lifelink. And there's really... Lifelink, it's got First Strike, Death Touch from the combination. So he can swing into the Nivix Cyclops and not even really worry about... the Cyclops killing it, but I'm okay with that because I'm holding Apostle's Blessing, but again, then I can't, so I can protect my Nivix Cyclops, but I'll be low life at that point that I won't really be able to do anything. So he attacks in with the Mind Sparker, and I decide to, I think just do a new move here instead of, I should have blocked and then Apostle's Blessing. But I decide to Apostle's Blessing first. And then give it Pro Red. And I take the 2 from that. Actually 4 from that. And it gains life. Because it's the Mind Sparker that's doing the damage. So it goes back up to 7. And in response to me targeting with Apostle's Blessing, he's going to... I can't remember what this card is. I think it's called Chaos Warp. Is what it's called. I'm not quite sure what the card is, but I get to shuffle it into my library. I have to shuffle target permanent in my library and then reveal the top card of my library. And if it's a permanent, I put it into play. And with my deck with such a high spell count, that is a very great card. This is from one of the commander decks. And that's just going to get rid of my Nivix Cyclops and then force me to shuffle it in. And then I really need to hit into something amazing. I don't know what could really deal with a First Strike Death Touch, though, off the top. What I really want to hit is like a Kiln Fiend and then just try to go crazy at 9 life, though. It'd be... Basically, I'd need to hit into a Double Strike, and that'd put the Kiln Fiend up to a 4. So even with that, I don't think that I could really top deck into anything to overcome this, because he's going to gain 3 life from the Mind Sparker as well. And, yeah, the Ponder's just going to be death. So I go down to a 6. He goes back up to an 8. And I really can't draw into anything whatsoever to get me out of this. So I'll decide to just, look at the Ponder and then decide that, yep, I'm going to scoop here because I just do the math and we'll go on to the next game. So in this game, I decided I need to bring in back some control. So the arc trails come in, the forked bolts come in, and whatnot. And I'm seeing an opening hand with a mountain. And I believe Faithless Looting is in here. So there's a Young Pyromancer, a mountain. So I'm not going to mulligan this. I'm just going to Faithless Looting and try to hit a land drop here. Now, Faithless Looting is card disadvantage. We do find the lands. Is it just it's a command tower, so that's very good. It's an island and command tower, so I'm going to easily be able to throw back an island. I decide to be a little bit risky here, and the Shadow Rift, which is actually a pretty decent card, but I'm going to try to go for a Pyromancer strategy here and hope that he just doesn't have a lightning bolt in his hand. And so we go for the Pyromancer, and he plays a Shrine of Burning Rage. So he's off to a good 2-drop start, but that means we're going to get value off of the Young Pyromancer. And I'm deciding if I wanted to gut shot him in a turn, but I think, well, I'll keep it up for like a Grim Lavamancer. And now I really want to go Kiln Fiend here, but I decide that I'm going to get value out of the Pyromancer as much as possible. And then Brainstorm. We want to hit a land drop here now. And the bad thing about Brainstorm is you can't shuffle anything away. So we throw a token into play from the Young Pyromancer trigger, gets an Elemental, and then we look at the top 3 cards. I don't like any of those. He gets a Gitaxian Probe. And he wants to show off his sweet foil tokens that he makes. So whatever Dragon Ball Z character that is. I'm not familiar with that token. Anywho, but we have a Bolt in hand. That's good. And we throw some higher mana cost stuff on top of our library. And I decide to probe him. And he shows me that he kept a heavy land. He just really wanted that Shrine of Burning Rage, and I guess that's not that bad of an option with the Task Mage, as you know, all those lands are just fuel for Task Mage. I mean, the more land, the merrier with a deck like his. But it allows me to get 2 elemental tokens and draw another card, and then we can swing in for 2. Which a Gitaxian Probe did cost me 3 life. But we did not hit that land that we wanted to because, again, Brainstorm does not put on the bottom. And I'm able to... I'm just trying to get as much value now that I see his hand that we Fork Bolt and then throw in another token and then take 2 to him. So he's going to go down to a 21. And we have a nice little aggression, which I don't know if he's running any sweepers in his deck like Bonfire of the Damned or like Arc Trail of his own. So I decided that it's worth it. I know that he's going to most likely bolt that. And then I'm going to get some value out of the Gut Shot to get another elemental token. Because I think at this point I can race him. And he scries, keeps whatever card that's on top. And then it is my go. So again, there's probably a lot of burn spells that are better than Bolts of Keranos. We put these decks together quite quickly and with cards we found available. But this just does represent like a burn type strategy. So I'll attack in with the elemental tokens, get him down for 4. He's down to a 15. That's a reasonable life total. And now he's in a bit of a predicament. He doesn't know exactly what he wants to do with the Shrine of Burning Rage. He needs to kill the Kiln Fiend. If he puts out the Task Mage, he's most likely just going to have to block the Kiln Fiend with the way that a Kiln Fiend can just go crazy with like any sort of double strike. And then the cantrips can... I have a Faithless Looting in my graveyard, which is, with 1 more land, a sure thing to actually cast and set up my hand even more. But he's going to go I think that's a Cinder Pyromancer, which untaps when... we'll pull up the card and see exactly what it does. But right now, it's kind of a bad... It's just going to have to chump block. I think that's what he uses. So I decide that I will Izzet Charm it. I have a Pyroclasm in my hand, by the way, which is such a dead card at this point. But we destroy that. It triggers the Kiln Fiend, and we get a swing in for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 damage, put him down to a 7. And we really are in the driver's seat here. It's going to force him, I believe, with a Shrine of Burning Rage to kill off the Kiln Fiend. Looks like he's got a Hammer of Perforos in his deck as well, or in his hand, which again is another way to get rid of excess lands. But he decides to kill off the Kiln Fiend, and then he doesn't have enough mana to do anything else. So we still have the 4 tokens from the Young Pyromancer that are just doing so much work. And I decide to Distortion Strike one of the soldier tokens and then get in there for 5. Because it's going to put him down to a 2, and now there is the Lightning Bolt that finishes him off. So we take this match down 2-1. That was kind of a slower draw. It looks like he drew into some more mountains. And yeah, just not enough cards to actually interact with our Young Pyromancer. He needs to take care of the Young Pyromancer as soon as possible. I think it's really the best card against this matchup. As I don't know how many sweepers he's running here, but anyway, Burn is a very viable form, especially with Eidolon of Great Revel and Pyrostatic Pillar. You got Sulfuric Vortex. If you go into actual red, there is also some cool cards that you can like Bump in the Night, and there's one out of the Last Conspiracy that does 4 damage that you can really just have an awesome burn type strategy. I know there's another 4 damage red spell out of Legacy. Anyway, we'll go on to the next match. This has been Kevin with GatheringMagic.com. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching Playing on a Budget. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Gathering Magic and check out our Playing on a Budget playlist, which contains every episode. Thanks again, and hope to see you soon.